call this meeting to order. It's 7 p.m. on the button. Are there any public comments? I don't have any comment cards here yet.
Actually, I have some for the hearings tonight.
Okay.
And if you are wishing to speak tonight, feel free to grab a public comment card in the back and you can fill it out and give it to me, including applicants.
The first action item on the agenda then is Preservation Grant PC 18-046 at 810 JQ Adams Street. And I think I'll first ask board members if you've visited the site.
Actually, for a grant, I don't think you need to do that.
Not for a grant. Yeah. We don't need that for a grant. Well, why don't we go straight to a staff report then?
Great. Thank you, Chair Basinger. This is a preservation grant for a house at 810 JQ Adams. And this is a little bit of a unique one, so I'm going to walk it through a little bit and kind of ask the board if this is something that they envisioned when they created the grant process. And so when the applicant came to staff, we thought it was compelling, but not an automatic approval. And so we wanted to walk it through with the board and see if you agreed, or if you did not agree, at least give kind of findings to staff. So if something like this came up again, we'd have clear direction. But we thought it was compelling enough that it was worth it to bring it up to the board for discussion. So the applicant owns 810 JQ Adams. If you notice here, the porch is very flat and does not pitch away from the house. And so the previous person who worked on the porch, the owner is realizing there's a lot of pooling water. And when he looked at the cost of repairing that, it was quite substantial. And so his contractor did recommend at a minimum, we could replace the boards and provide a 1/8 inch gap between the boards to allow water to flow through, and which would stop the ponding and potential the long-term water damage back onto the historic house. And so on a staff level, probably would support that if there was not a grant. And so the question is this something that is eligible for the grant? And on a staff level, I mean, you can kind of look at it two ways. One, that, that the applicant has a porch that was built incorrectly and is having, could potentially have a long-term adverse impact to the historic house because of ponding for water, and this resolves it. Or this is an unfortunate situation, but really not the intent of the grant program to propose a porch that would not be constructed normally through the grant program. So I think both are reasonable answers. I think in the long run, this house has been substantially improved, and it would be also a shame to have this as a long-standing situation because the cost of replacing it was, not feasible in the near term. So I have the conditions of approval are your standards. The recommend spacing no more than 1/8 of an inch, and that the work is done before August 30th. This is the last grant of this fiscal year, and we'll have $5,000 available at July 1 of 2018 for the next fiscal year. So I'm available to answer questions, and we can bring the applicant up if they want to.
If the applicant's present, come on up and have a seat.
Bring that back to that picture.
And for the benefit of the viewers at home, state your name.
Sure. Jacob Tenney.
Okay. What would you like to tell us?
What would I like to tell you? I just got really nervous. First of all, I've never been to a city meeting before, but this is my first home. My wife and I absolutely love it. We love the historical significance of it. We love the character and charm. We purchased this home in early 2011, and since then have learned all of its trouble spots, which really is the entire south side of the property. It gets hit with the weather all year long, and obviously particularly when it rains. So this porch that you're looking at in the photo is covered, but the water comes in at such an angle that it it really falls all the way into right in front of the front door. We, over the past 3 to 4 years, have invested about $15,000 in water damage repair. Combination of the porch and the south side of our wall needing to be entirely rebuilt due to water damage. We restored it to the historical specifications, including custom milled siding to be the proper width. And, you know, this house has been, it's needed some love and care. So I learned of this grant recently. We're really at kind of the last stage of fixing some of the trouble spots, and I would appreciate the assistance.
Just so I'm clear on this, the water damage that you're repairing is not directly related to the lack of drainage on the porch?
This repair that I'm requesting the grant for
Well, I
will be-
understand that, but I mean the other damage.
So the first phase of repair on the porch was ultimately getting it to the condition it's in now. So water had been a problem on the porch, and we tried to remedy that. A lot of it has been remedied. If you look in the photo, the furthest away column is one of the main supports of the porch, and that had completely rotted through at the base due to standing water issues. And I believe that's a historic post. And so we found a contractor that was able to patch that for us. You can't even tell at this point that it was damaged. So a lot of work has been done, but in putting it back the way that it was, sealing it up, caulking, painting, it's now created this standing water issue. So this is a rework of a repair that was already done, at least on the top flooring material
So you had that done in January
in January, yeah.
to where it looks like it does now?
That was taken within, you know, maybe a week or two of the repair.
And what did it look like before the repair? Similar?
The flooring itself, the materials are exactly the same. So it looked like that, but in a much more, along the edges, so where you can see the new caulking under the posts and along the trim work, that was all rotted out. The part that you can't see, the front and the sides of the porch, all of the trim work had rotted out. So all of that has now been replaced. So really all we're looking at changing now is just the top floor material and redoing it in a way that will let the water pass through.
What kind of material?
I think we're just thinking just straight lumber. So what you're looking at here is tongue and groove. And that tongue and groove being painted and all of that is what's creating the water sealant. So what we're looking at doing would be more like just pieces of lumber that aren't affixed together that would leave a small gap and let the water go through. The only other alternative in talking with the contractor would be to actually put a tilt into the porch, which is what should have been done originally, but that's quite costly and changes the entire front of the structure.
You did not receive any previous funding, right, for the work done to date?
No.
So there's two trains of thought. One is, it would be good to correct it and do it right. The other thought is, somebody should have known better and done it correctly if they knew what they're doing, and would have opted to alleviate the problem with doing it that way the first time, or actually with all the work it sounds like you've done with the rot, to actually physically redo the porch so that the boards would be perpendicular on a cant, which is normal, and it would have been a 1x4 vertical grain fir. And because that's probably the way it was originally. But I watched this house get renovated years ago. But however it is now, that's a problem. So it's, yeah, everybody wants to help everyone out and do things right. But at the same time, if you're hiring somebody who knew what they're doing, that potentially they would have brought that up and tried to alleviate the problem instead of creating the same problem with new wood.
Yeah.
So I'm a little, from my perspective, it's not a whole lot of money. It would be good to to be used for your benefit, but on the other side of it is, is it the city that should be helping you out for something that was potentially, I'm not gonna say done completely wrong, but, so that's the two thoughts I have.
Yeah.
I may be alone in that, but
My thought was that the intent of the grant, I think it's essentially the same thing that staff said. The intention of the grant is to encourage people to do the necessary work to make the historical structures last. But at the same time, it's not intended to be a kind of an insurance policy against work that wasn't done right. But the decking itself, that is on the tongue and groove decking was there before your time? Is that understanding?
Correct. My understanding is that the home was remodeled in 2007, and we purchased it in 2011.
Okay. Well, I would feel more strongly about the negative aspect of this if you had done that work and then were coming back and asking for money to correct a mistake that you made, but you're trying to make up for something done before your time. And I appreciate that.
Thank you for noticing that. And I do understand the tension in this decision. It makes perfect sense to me. I think where my heart is at is, and I speak for my wife as well, we've been on a mission to maintain this house and prevent further damage. So in the best way that we can afford to do. So I wish it was done the right way the first time too, and I wish we could afford right now to put it back the way that it should historically be. But considering the other historical elements related to this porch, the posts and, the trim and all the other work, repairing it in a way that we can afford to do that would prevent those other elements from rotting out in the near future as well is kind of the best that we feel we're able to do right now.
What is your confidence level that this will actually solve the problem for a good period of time?
Yeah, high, very high. The standing water is, so this photo I mentioned was taken within maybe a week or so of the repair. Since then, because of the standing water, the paint is already chipping away and we're seeing bare wood at this point. So, that just goes to show how rapid this will become a problem if I don't change it quickly.
Christina, could you remind me of where we're at in the timeline and where we're at with funding, what we've already
Sure.
allocated?
So the board gets $5,000 a year. Really, it's $10,000 for biennium, but generally we've kept the $5,000 per year. So this is the last of the grant. So at this, it'd be 4,700 and something. This is a 700 and something grant. So really no new additional money other than the 200 and change that is left. Will be available till July 1.
Oh.
So if this is denied, then there is $1,000 left till July 1. If this is given, then there's about 200 and something. That'll just be added
Sure.
to the pot for next year, starting July 1.
If I could add one more thing to more or less complicate the decision here, I know the staff has recommended 1/8 of an inch gap between the boards that we're planning on doing. Since I spoke with Kelly Reed about that, and I told her that I wanted to keep it to about 1/8 of an inch, it's been brought to my attention that wood likely will expand more than that, you probably know that. So 1/8 of an inch now, when the weather warms up, could expand up to 1/4 inch or maybe even more and have a new problem on our hands. So
It wouldn't be a problem. It'll shrink and expand because that's what it does.
yeah,
But, I mean, shoot, you could even take a saw and rip through those joints just to alleviate the water if you had to. But, yeah. Yeah, with 1/8, that's like a 16-penny nail. It'll swell up in the winter and shrink up in the summer. Yeah. It's a conundrum. Well,
Thoughts?
The thought that I had, actually, you brought up, so I agree with your comments regarding,
did you say there's $1,000 left right now?
okay.
And 3 months, essentially, April, May, June
Well,
meetings.
correct. Well, we generally like to, it's hard to get it completed if we have it complete by June 30th. Though we're in the middle of the biennium, so we don't have the problem that you have when you're at the end of the biennium, when all the money has to be spent by June 30th. So this application could be, or another one could be pushed for the completion date into the end of the summer and still be okay.
Sure. Well,
I'll be the first one to say it. I'm inclined to favor the grant just because of the importance of preserving the property and the work that the applicant has already done on the property.
I think that's where I'm at. You guys have tried to do what you can to keep it up. I would also shake a stick at your contractor a little bit too.
I've had that conversation.
Yeah, you should know better. Well, I would move to approve grant 18-46 or preservation grant 1801, preservation grant 810 JQ Adams Street, rebuild a portion of the front porch and modify the project to improve water drainage.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Ray Stobie,
Yes.
Ken Basinger,
Yes,
John McLaughlin,
Aye.
Grant Blythe,
Aye.
motion carries. So you can work with me, I have a sign for you to put up
Okay.
while you're doing the work, and then you will contact me when you're ready for final, and I'll go out and inspect it, and once you've paid the contractor and I get the paid receipt, we turn it into our finance, and it takes about 2 weeks to cut the check.
Okay. Sounds good. How do I get your contact information?
I can give you my card.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
because we are now going to move into the public hearing portion of the meeting, we have a statement that we have to read regarding the quasi-judicial process and what your participation and rights involve. So I'm going to read that. I'll try to make it as exciting as I can. Two public hearings on land use applications are scheduled tonight. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply for each applicant's proposals. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the commission will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure steps are shown on the chart over on the wall there, in case you need to refer back to it. Anyone wishing to speak should fill out a speaker's card, which are available on the back desk. and give it to the planning staff before the hearing. Speakers will proceed in the order in which their cards are received. You should fill out your address on the card so the city will notify you of its final decision. For the public record, please begin all testimony by stating your name. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. A person may submit any written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for PowerPoint presentations, oversized poster boards, reports, pictures, or other exhibits used in their oral testimony to be placed in the public record, copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open. If they are not given to staff, they will not be included in the public record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must take that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. If the Historic Review Board makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must have been raised for consideration of the City Commission or Land Use Board of Appeals or both. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient specificity and accompanied by statements or evidence that the city and all parties can respond, the issue will not be deemed appealable to the State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So we now will open the public record for file number HR 18-041, which is HR-01, review of alterations to the designated structure at 710 6th Street, the First Congregational Church of Oregon City. And we'll begin with the staff report.
Actually, I think we have to do who has visited the site and any conflicts or bias.
We will do that. Have all the board members visited the site?
Yes.
They have. Conflicts of interest or ex parte contact with the applicant?
No.
No.
Nope. All right,
Okay.
now it's your turn.
Thank you. So this is really a referral from staff to the Historic Review Board for the request to place 2 signs on the Atkinson Memorial Church, was the historic name. The new name of the church is the Unitarian Universalist Church at Willamette Falls. But when we talk about the historic name, we often will reference the Atkinson Memorial Church. The property is located between John Adams and 6th and Jefferson Street. One of the entrances faces 6th Street, and one of the entrances that we're speaking to tonight faces John Adams. This is an overall view of the building. This is the John Adams entrance. This is the 6th Street. This is a mock-up of the sign. Right now it's a banner, and they propose to kind of flatten it out and put it on a metal backing. They looked at a freestanding sign, but because of previous property damage, and I'll let the applicant speak to that, they felt that having the sign attached to the building was important, and most importantly attached to the a prominent view rather than on their non-historic addition was important to them. So this shows the mock-up on the John Adams Street facade. So staff finds that the proposed placement does have a visual impacts on the appearance and spacing. I mean, they are putting on a prominent architectural, but the applicant's goal is providing a prominent location for the signs, and they feel that putting it in a secondary location wouldn't have the impact of a welcoming sign that it is. The property is constructed of concrete on the exterior, not stucco. So there is a condition of approval to ensure that it when and if it's ever removed, that removing it, they are make sure that that concrete is patched up and can't be seen any evidence that it was adhered to. I'll go back. As the staff level, we're normally able to approve signs on commercial properties if they are compatible. Most people choose either a freestanding sign or kind of a sign that that it normally is a commercial sign, or if it's a house remodel to like an office, they might just have a hanging sign. This was a unique enough situation that staff was uncomfortable providing approval on a staff level and requested that this be sent up to the Historic Review Board for review. And so when the board reviews this tonight, kind of look at it in two lenses. One, is there a kind of more of a categorical policy you want to kind of come out of this review, or is this really a site-specific and context-specific review, and any other projects like this you encourage the staff to bring it, you know, again, for a context-sensitive analysis? So on our end, the staff is kind of looking for direction, both individually or, you know, if there's a larger policy you want to give. Denise McGriff provided an email to me today, and you have that on your dais. I'll read it for everybody. She mentioned, I understand the request, however, I'm torn by the idea of putting up anything permanent or temporary on the historic facade. The banner with the frame around it is still a banner. Perhaps the Historic Review Board can come up with some ideas for signage that could place on the addition, but not on the historic facade. I spoke with them about a small permanent freestanding sign on 6th Street, but that does not seem to meet their needs. And so this will be entered as Exhibit A into the record tonight. And I'm available to answer any questions if the board has any.
Questions for staff? I have no questions. Is the applicant present? Yeah. Spokesman, please come up and state your name. And you will have 15 minutes.
Great. Good evening. My name is Scott Silver, and I represent, in this matter, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation at Willamette Falls. I thank you for your consideration in this matter. I'll be very brief. We're trying to craft a solution that meets 3 criteria. One, that complies with both the letter and intent of the Oregon City sign ordinances. 2, meets our desire for additional signage over our primary Sunday entrances, these welcome signs. And 3, meets the requirements of this Historic Review Board to protect and preserve historic structures and protect and preserve the character of the neighborhood. We think our proposal, with the proper conditions placed by the Historic Review Board, will meet these 3 criteria. We look forward to working with you tonight to address your concerns, desires, and requirements. As an aside, we're very happy with the staff findings. We worked with staff back and forth a little bit on this. They had a sense of what would be more reasonable and what would be less reasonable, and we did explore alternate locations, lower on the building and things like that. Unfortunately, in this neighborhood, sometimes we get vandalism and theft, and that's one of the reasons we put those particular signs up so high, so that they could not easily be defaced or stolen. That's all I have for you this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions and work with you in any way that you'd like.
Wasn't there a sign that was in the grass, I thought I saw?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a sign you can't see in this picture in the corner, at the corner of the intersection, that is a...
Right there.
Yeah,
Right there.
no, that's not existing today.
Yeah.
That's an older picture.
So yeah, when I looked at it.
There is a newer, more modern-looking, kind of churchy sign that, you know, says what the sermon of the week is, or some other statement of sort, and kind of the hours of operation and such. That's what's down there.
Well, you'd want it to be churchy.
You would think.
Yeah.
I think it met the goal.
Are you looking for a precedent or just a,
No, actually, what I'm looking for is when I think really you have two options. I mean, when you have a prominent architectural resource that is looking at putting a sign on the resource, staff really felt that it really lend itself to a hearing, to allow people to show up, to make comment, to be involved. So the board could look at this one way is A, we provide notice, we invited the public to come, we received one comment. Okay, sorry, maybe one more, yeah.
These two,
so I had a question.
Yeah.
So have you had a sign down below before and it has been defaced or vandalized?
The new sign that you just mentioned has already been defaced. It was defaced within weeks of us putting it up. The plexiglass on the outside was keyed pretty dramatically. We've had handicap signs that are around the corner from there in our parking lot. They're regularly removed, I think, by treasure hunters or broken, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Sprinklers that pop up get broken off.
No, I have no problem with whatever. I'm just wondering if you put it up higher, does that give somebody more of a challenge to deface it higher up?
Well, you know, that's an interesting question, and because we did it wrong the first time, we actually have some evidence at this point, right? Because we hung banners on this building, and we're not allowed to do that, and that's how we ended up here, is somebody said, hey, you can't do that. And so those banners have been up there about 8 weeks now, 7 weeks, and so far...
So far, so good?
So far, so good. And I was initially worried, like you've mentioned, that if you can't get to the banner, maybe you spray paint the door instead, you know, or something like that, you know. I just keep crossing my fingers. I'm the facilities guy there, and I'm the one who has to clean up these messes, so.
Well, yeah.
The other good news is because we did it wrong the first time, you get a better sense of what we're talking about because we actually have pictures of kind of the thing on the side of the building.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little bit more, it's easier to throw darts at something that you can see with an example instead of saying, well, I wonder what that would really look like. So.
any other questions for the applicant? Or anything more you need to say?
So I have a couple questions. So not asking about the content specifically, but I'm seeing that it's not like a address or informational type of thing.
No.
Is it meant to be permanent, or do you mean to rotate what's in there?
Yeah, good question.
Originally, the idea was that these would be temporary, but unfortunately, our view of temporary means 1 to 2 years. Originally, when it was banners, we'd say, well, how long are they going to be up? Well, when they start falling apart and looking bad, we'll pull them down and we'll think about what the next step is. So, in essence, we're actually making the signage mounting more permanent. I expect that, indeed, what will really happen is as things change over years, and I'm talking 1, 2, 3 kinds of years, that it'll be removed, maybe even the frame will be taken down for a while. We're planning to mount the frame such that it's reasonably removable because, of course, if you're going to put a new sign in it, you don't want to have a crane every time you go out there or something like that. So I can't actually predict the future, really. I can say that I expect this sign to be up 1 to 3 years, but I never know. You know.
So you would classify it technically as not a permanent sign, but a sign that's rotating, a sign
Originally,
that's fluid.
Yes, originally that was the intent. It was, and as evidenced by hanging banners, banners are inherently temporary, they don't
Sure.
last. You know, and so yes, we had imagined that they would go away in some time.
Got it.
And then that would be that. We would be done, and who knows what next thing and how long it would be till we hung the next thing. If ever,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
Anything else? We thank you.
Thanks.
And if you will have the opportunity, if there's something in the further testimony that you disagree with, you will have the opportunity to speak again.
Thank you.
Luisa Gagno. And I hope I said that somewhat right. Gagno.
Hi, I'm Louisa Gagnu, and I live at 101 Center Street at the corner of First and Center. So I'm in the neighborhood, and I'm also a member of Willamette Falls, we call it. I love these signs. They're made to let everyone know they're welcome to come into our church and worship with us. I don't think it detracts from the building at all. In fact, I think it enhances the look of the building. That's just my viewpoint. And I'm especially interested because I live in one of the historic homes, and I'm very interested in the neighborhood and how it looks. And so that's my feeling about it.
Anybody have a question, comment?
Thanks.
All right, we thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Basinger, I have 2 comments if I could.
You may.
Okay. So in planning, there are no temporary signs other than banners. So the applicant will be paying a sign permit, which means they can have this permanently up. Changing copy does not require a new permit, so they can take it down and put new, put new information on and put it back up again. I think if they took it down for more than a certain amount of time, they may have to pay for a new permit. Second, I think Grant said, State of Oregon, we don't review content. So as you look at that, you have to imagine that there's anything in that sign, and there can be anything on that sign. It's really the sign size, material, and location you're looking at tonight.
Thank you for the clarification. Floyd Ruel?
It's Roll. My name is Floyd Roll. I'm not a resident of Oregon City. I live in West Lynn. I'm here as a member of the congregation. I also serve on the executive team of our congregation. And I just wanted to say that I think Scott and Louisa have done a good job of representing our position here. These signs are a way for us to tell our values to the community and let the community know who we are and that we are a welcoming congregation, and that's their purpose. When this sign changes, eventually, if it does, I imagine there will be a similar message of expressing our values and so forth to the community, and that's its main purpose. That's all.
Anybody? Thank you for your comments. And I'm going to make a wild guess here that you don't have a rebuttal to state there. In that case, we will close the public hearing and go to deliberation. Talk this over. Should we go left or right? You're on the left if you're facing us.
I'm not sure what the alternative is going to be. I'm not up on the sign codes for Oregon City, so.
Actually, we don't need to be experts on the sign code because what we're talking about is the historic structure, what impact the addition of the sign has on the appearance of the historic structure. That's all that the Historic Review Board is focused on.
I don't have any problems. Yeah, or issues.
Yeah, but vinyl's not my favorite material. I prefer it to be something else probably, but the general concept I'm okay with.
Yeah, I
Trying
think
to find what the conditions were here.
something like
Usually
that
the third
will last longer, but something that's metal will probably start to rust and affect the exterior. I guess from my thing, I don't want to interrupt you, but probably what Christina was saying, that whatever, if they had to remove it, it would be removed so that wouldn't cause damage to the facade.
I think the Kelly did not provide traditional conditions of approval. So I think she recommended what Mr. McLaughlin just said, which was with the condition that any removal should be repaired to show no signs of adherence. So if there's a better condition, wording, you can.
We would
And
need to add
the
that
only-
as a condition.
Who's,
Go ahead.
Is that written?
And the only other one I
Yeah,
might add,
it
it's a little
was-
bit difficult to tell looking at the,
I don't have it with me, but that.
not in the staff report, but in the submittal. So I think the intent was to frame the existing signs rather than new ones. And my only concern would be that if the size is, when you add the frame, it looks like they're already getting close to touching the architectural features. So I would maybe want to add a condition that there's 6 inches or something between 6 inches of relief but from the sill of the window and the top of the arch from the frame, or something like that. Because I don't know exactly how big wide the frame width will be or any of that.
Can make that a condition too.
Yeah.
Let's see. I would move to approve HR 18-041, alterations to a designated structure at 710 6th Street, First Congregational Church of Oregon City, be approved with the condition that in the event that the sign would be removed, that it would not compromise the integrity of the facade, the exterior facade. And a second condition that the overall complies with it. The overall placement would be such that it would be minimum of 6 inches relief from the architectural elements of the facade window and the arch of the door. Is that right?
And the condition recommended by staff.
And the conditions recommended by staff.
Well, I think there are none, so those are the two.
You said you've got some?
Yeah,
Do
no,
we?
no, just,
Oh.
that's the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I just said is the add-ons. Yeah.
Second that.
All right, Ray Stobie,
Aye.
John McLaughlin,
Aye.
Grant Blythe,
Aye.
Chair Basinger.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll be mailing out the no decision next week with these conditions, but you can move forward with your sign permit.
Yes.
With that, we will reopen the public hearing and move to PC 18-042, HR 1802, review of an addition to a designated structure at 203 3rd Avenue in the Kenema National Historic District, along with demolition of an existing garage on the site and construction of a new garage and accessory dwelling unit. Have board members visited the site?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And I have as well. Does any commissioner have ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, or any other statements to declare?
No.
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 I know the applicant. I've known him for 10 or 12 years through Rotary Club, Kenema Neighborhood Association, real estate business. Consider him a friend, but I don't consider that to be a conflict of interest. And we have had no ex parte contact in regard to this application, other than explaining the historic review process.
Does anybody want to challenge those comments?
In that case, we'll move to the staff report.
All right. Okay. So this is a combination of demolition, addition, and new construction. This came in front of the Historic Review Board at a design advice recently, and that design advice has been added to the record, as well as that video. This is, oh, hold on a second. Apologies, I'm gonna get myself. The site is located off of 3rd Avenue, and there are quite a number of lots of record that are made up this lot, but the house is at the far end, on top of kind of the cliff above McLaughlin Boulevard. This shows the existing historic home, and if you hadn't seen this before, this provides a little context. This was moved to the site, and that actually is a garage. And so most of the house actually was repurposed from this garage. And you kind of can see the brick bay window was added where the garage doors used to be. So this, you can see, is right here. So it's quite a small home. The applicant is also looking at demolishing the existing garage on site and building a new accessory dwelling unit. This shows the what's underneath the garage. It's kind of perched on the steep slope portion of the site. You can see where it is here. So the existing house, this is the proposed kind of side addition. The existing barn is right here, and the proposed ADU meets generally the same footprint, slightly off. The applicant has proposed kind of a side addition. So you can see the side addition here, which this area where my pointer goes out to an existing large deck that overlooks the property. Here we see the deck. This is the rear. And here you see where the garage doors used to be and the kind of bay window area, and then a new door here. This is the layout plan. This is the historic volume, and this is the side volume. So the ADU, this is a garage on the ground and then a living area above. Two things I want to point out that having not been involved in this, I want to make sure the board agrees with staff's recommendation. The applicant proposed metal railings as part of this, and the board, through the design advice, recommended going back to wood. So I want confirmation that that's something the board still wants to do, as well as, actually, hold on. I'm going to show this. This is one more showing the volume cross-section and then the west elevation. One more thing I want the board to look at. These windows are the windows that kind of look out over the property towards the river. And there was a proposal to break up the massing here so that the windows are separated. And the condition of approval, and I want the board to look at that as well and see if that is worded correctly, and I will find that. The applicant shall revise the design to afford more separation between the group of 4 windows on north elevation and add space in the middle to create 2 paired windows instead. So this is the south elevation. So I have the conditions of approval available here if we want to go back and look at them.
Can you go to the site plan again, please?
Sure.
I got a big question on that one. Okay.
Oh, one more thing. The applicant's also required to go through the geologic hazard review. As always, in the Historic Review Board, it's a parallel process. And the applicant actually just submitted this week, and so they are just starting the geologic hazard review. And they do know that if anything changes in design, they will have to come back to the board for any revisions that bear out of the requirements for the geologic hazard review.
Cool.
Questions for staff?
Later.
In that case, we'll invite the applicant to come and tell us about this.
I'm Jim Riggle. I'm an applicant.
Laura Rambo, an applicant. And I'm part of the architecture design, so I'm Kendra.
So, we bought this place about 3 years ago, just blindly stumbled into it. And when Mrs. McRae had to go to the home, there were a bunch of people that looked at it and they all went away. And we ended up with it. What we've applied to the city to add on to it within the limits of what the city wants, as far as we can tell. I don't think we've asked for anything the city says you can't do. Laura and I, in the 3 years, we bought it 3 years, we've had it for 3 years now, 3 years next month. And we've had an easy 100 conversation about what in the hell to do with it once we got it. It's just an absolutely charming place, and we'd go down there and spend a weekend and go home and say, what do we do now? What changed the course of events was that we both stumbled into some real health trouble this last summer. So we said, it's now or never. And if we're going to get to live there for any time at all, we just have to forge ahead and do it. So we hired our architect to do the research with the city about what we could do and draw plans, and that's what you've seen. We have really good friends who live at Willamette View, and we think that their place is far inferior to what we've got and what we will have, but it's the same purpose. We want to go down there and retire. We've got a big house out in Beaver Creek that we don't need, and we want to make the move while we still can. As to, there were the three things, I got the contractor's bid for the sewer yesterday, $60,000. So whether they're metal handrails or wood handrails, I could care less. Just doesn't matter. As to the windows, those drawn aren't exactly what I really like, but if that's what the city requires, that's what the city requires. The only thing I would add is that if, when we get the house up, you ever want to see those windows and see whether they fit with the neighborhood, you're going to have to rent a helicopter and hover out over the river to see it, because it's absolutely impossible to see that elevation of the house. Well, maybe from over at the rest stop on the 205 with some high-powered field glasses or something, but you can't see that side of the house. As to the barn and its removal and replacing it with an ADU, the building is clearly just simply unsafe. I mean, you could, those pictures, the vertical members don't have pier blocks under them. Somebody's been under there with a chainsaw, doing chainsaw art, calling it a foundation, and you couldn't put a car in there. The weight of a light car would probably knock the place over. So, Laura, do you have anything more?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
All right.
Can I ask you a question? Is that all right? On the site plan, I mean, you answered one question, if you're getting sewer, but where it says the septic tank lids and your foundation's sitting right on top of them?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear.
Your septic tank lids that show on the site plan.
Yeah, but yeah, they're it's a couple of cesspools.
So you have to, you'll remove those?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Okay.
that's what the sewer's all about.
Yeah.
City won't let me build unless I put a sewer into the house.
No, I was curious just the way it was positioned and trying to answer that.
They gotta go.
And then last time you were here for design review, design consultation, I think we brought up, and staff would be able to answer this, the addition is like a foot away from the property line?
Yeah, I think
we
there's
brought that up
preservation incentives as part of this. Let me just make sure.
I think that was
Yep.
brought up as well.
Yeah, and so there's a preservation incentive to allow, so as
Right.
part of this approval, the board will be allowing the incentive to locate the addition, because I believe in the staff report, it's related to the existing house.
Yep.
And this is the most logical and appropriate location, for addition, which then necessitates the preservation setback.
The other people who might have wanted the property were probably smart to have run. You know, every time I turn around, there's some new complexion about it, about what happened in 1855 when they surveyed the place and everything was a foot off or some darn thing. I mean, it's just,
Sure.
it's a Rubik's Cube. Every time you turn it, some new difficult thing turns up. You know, whoever it was, Captain Jack, that was distinguished because he fell off the bluff and the train ran over him or some darn thing is the story. They just found a way to do most everything wrong.
And there was a mention of the garage doors to be implemented in the ADU.
I just said again.
The garage doors, the existing garage doors that you were gonna reuse in the ADU?
I don't know that I said that.
I think that was one of the issues.
They could be repurposed and they're good look, and that style is good looking and would look good on the ADU. But those doors would,
Well, on the drawing, if we could go to the floor plan of the ADU?
I don't think we had any intent to reuse the existing wooden doors.
I don't think I have the floor plan, I can bring it up.
There should be, I think there was.
Who was that listed on my presentation? Hold on one second.
Yeah, but the floor plan shows,
Christine, don't you have a?
I have it, I just need to bring up the plans, just one
I
second.
think the floor plan actually shows the garage doors as outswinging
Oh, well,
doors.
no, here, I've got the plan and it shows.
Not the elevation, the floor plan.
Pardon, well, this is, okay, so here's the front elevation to the ADU.
Right,
And those doors look like the doors that are there now.
right.
But I can't imagine that there's any economic.
Right, I just want to clarify on the
Yeah.
floor plan.
I don't
Yeah.
have a
Just one second.
The current doors that are there also have had holes
There we go.
drilled in them and chains put through them.
If you look at the garage floor plan, it actually shows those as outswinging carriage doors.
It shows some similar doors, yes.
Okay. But that's your intent, outswinging carriage doors?
I'd go out and buy new ones. It'd be too expensive to rehab the old ones.
But they are gonna, they're
Yeah,
not an
they-
overhead door, it's a.
No, I don't want overhead doors. I
No,
want my
that wouldn't be appropriate on
Yeah.
that property at all.
I want the ceiling space, so I want the doors to be barn doors, not,
Regular carriage style
Right.
doors. Yes.
Yeah.
I think the elevation also shows that in a hatch, the triangles just show that there's.
Sure, you could also do garage doors that look just like that as well, overhead doors. So that's why I was saying, that's why I was asking, based on the floor plan, that's what you've got, that's what I read. Okay. Just checking.
And on the ADU, or I guess on the ADU and on the addition, are those sliding doors or are those French doors?
Where the balcony is, those look like,
Those are swing doors, so the triangle that's
Oh,
tilted to
yeah,
the
okay.
side, that point indicates that it's a hinged door.
yeah, those are French doors.
Yep, okay.
Do those swing in, they swing in? I would hope,
Those ones swing.
So they swing out.
yeah. Yeah.
that elevation of the ADU isn't quite like the elevation of the back of the house will be. If you were to trespass onto our property and stand on our deck, you could see that elevation of the ADU, but it would be impossible to see it from any other private property. Again, unless you're with 205 rest stop and we're looking over there with high-powered field glasses, you
do
can't.
it all the time.
Can't,
Go Ken.
Well, we'll be more careful from here on.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? In that case,
Just one more thing. Yeah, as far as the handrail on that balcony, I mean, right now it's just drawn with corner posts would look like cabling. I mean, we'll probably most likely recommend a wood handrail, but there's gonna have to be structural posts every 4 to 5 feet anyway. So you're gonna have to have something there.
Okay.
But I get that you'd wanna make that view as uninterrupted as possible. But anyway, that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll close the public hearing and deliberate. Thoughts and comments? On the staff report, page 19,
Here, and I can,
are the
I have them
staff
available.
recommended conditions of approval.
Yeah, it was number 3B, that's what I remember about carriage doors. Those carriage doors were cool.
And I guess I should ask also if we're good with the 3 preservation incentives that are requested as part of the application. 2 of them have to do with the setbacks, and I think those are pretty clear. And the 3rd one has to do with the fact that the ADU actually exceeds the height of the main dwelling.
And isn't located in front.
But as staff points out, it's far enough away and the lay of the land is such that it's not going to detract from the appearance of the structure itself. So.
It's the gable on the north elevation condition.
Let me look at, I can bring that up.
That's of the, let's see, this is the home edition.
Oh, the home edition, okay, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It's condition 4B, I'm wondering about. I don't remember why we,
It's this window right here.
These?
well, it's condition 4B is to remove the gable window on the north elevation.
Which is this square window.
Oh, we talked about that. That's right.
Having trouble recalling what our conversation was.
I think it was that it wouldn't have been appropriate on a typical house of that character.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about when they had, I think, taller windows here. And we said this option was going to be better right here. But that was to be, where was that again?
Condition 4B.
That's correct. All right.
Any thoughts?
I could make a motion, but I want to hog the night.
Oh, go for it, John.
Go 3 for 3. Well,
Or the switch.
where is it? I'll make a motion to approve 18-042. Historic Review Board review in addition to a designated structure at 203 3rd Avenue in Kenema National Historic District, along with demolition of an existing garage on the site and construction of a new garage and accessory dwelling unit, and with the conditions that staff has set forth.
A second?
Second.
All right. Ray Stobie,
Aye.
John McLaughlin,
Aye.
Grant Black,
Aye.
Chair Basinger.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good.
So I will
We
mail
will
out.
see you with your hammers and saws.
So the notice decision will be mailed out next week and continue, working with staff on your geologic hazards review.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Interested in those carriage doors.
Last item on the agenda is communications.
Well, I have
Okay.
a wonderful communication that Kelly
Oh.
Reed had her baby last week.
Yeah, that was cool. So it's Vincent?
Yeah.
Hey,
And
Vince.
so I will be standing in for Kelly through the July meeting. And she'll be back starting in August
It's
meeting.
like old times.
It's like old times. Right now, we have no land use applications in April. And actually, now that you've given away that grant, we most likely will not have an April meeting.
That was
So the
it.
April meeting will be canceled.
Shame.
But I'll let you know what's coming up on there.
Super. I saw in the news tonight
Yes.
about Main Street.
It is.
That's pretty cool.
Oregon's, for those who don't know, downtown Oregon City was awarded by the Main Street
Top three.
organization as Great American Main Street, announced yesterday at their conference in Kansas City, and the mayor and DOCA President Carol Pauley and Don Stone, past HRB member, was available on hand, and it's a big, great honor. So we're very excited.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
If there's nothing else,
Back
We're
to spring
finished.
break.
adjourn.